It's been a bit of a shock. However much one tries to prepare oneself for something like this, it's still a dreadful shock, and we're still trying to come to terms with that. And it's very, very sad. I don't believe that he's going to be putting his feet up completely and sort of disappearing into the background and never being seen again. So I still think he'll pick and choose what he wants to do.
Few areas of the kingdom which are least likely to have any connection with the crown, and yet there's some surprising associations.
Prince Edward has left Buckingham Palace and no one knows the full story yet. Did King Charles do something so bad that he finally had enough? Edward, who's always been the calm and steady one, seems done with royal rules and family drama. Is this the start of a bigger royal breakup no one expected? Join us to find out what Edward's move really means and why it could shake up the monarchy. Quiet but bold. Here's the thing about Edward, he's always been different. Born in 1964, he grew up in the same fancy royal bubble as his siblings, but let's be real, he's nothing like them. Charles, the future king, has always been about duty, tradition, and preparing for the throne. Andrew, on the other hand, has made headlines for reasons the royal family probably wishes everyone would forget. But Edward? His path has always been kind of unexpected. He's not the flashy, headline-grabbing type like some of his family members, but he's also not the perfect, rule-following royal either. He's somewhere in between, a bit of an oddball in the royal lineup, and yet there's one decision he made, a choice so unconventional, so quietly defiant, that it would go on to redefine not just his life, but the perception of what it means to be royal. What was it? Well, that's where things get interesting. Unlike his brothers, he didn't seem interested in the typical royal expectations. He was never chasing the spotlight, nor was he trying to be the family's golden child. Instead, he seemed more focused on figuring out what made him happy, even if it didn't quite fit the royal mold. He dabbled in academics, theater, and even television production, paths that might seem totally normal for most people, but felt downright unconventional for a royal. And that's what makes him so interesting. Edward didn't just follow the script handed to him, he wrote his own, even if it didn't always make sense to everyone else. Yep, Edward got into the arts and even worked backstage on musicals like The Phantom of the Opera. Imagine a royal setting up props and working behind the scenes. It's not exactly what people picture when they think of the monarchy. And honestly, you've got to give him credit for following his passion instead of just doing what everyone else expected. But let's be real. You know the royal family was side-eyeing him hard, probably thinking, what is he doing? Royals don't do that kind of thing. It was bold, a little random, and totally Edward. Then there was his big TV adventure. A bold and ambitious chapter that stood out from the usual royal narrative. He ventured into the world of television production by establishing his own company, Ardent Productions, in the 90s. At first glance, it seemed like a daring and innovative move for a member of the royal family, a breakaway from tradition that showcased his willingness to carve out a unique path. While most royals were content with ceremonial duties, waving to crowds, attending charity events, and unveiling plaques, Edward sought to leave his mark in a more creative and unconventional way. Unfortunately, the reality didn't quite live up to the dream. Ardent Productions struggled to find its footing in the highly competitive world of television. The shows it produced were met with lukewarm reception at best, with critics quick to dismiss them as uninspired and lacking the polish needed to stand out. The media, always eager for a royal misstep, pounced on the company's failings, turning Edward's foray into a cautionary tale of overreach. Headlines gleefully chronicled every stumble, and the venture quickly became fodder for public mockery. It was a painful period for Edward, who had genuinely hoped to succeed on his own terms. Watching his efforts falter under the weight of criticism and scrutiny must have been disheartening. Yet there was something admirable in his willingness to take the risk in the first place. Most royals might have been content to stay within the comfortable confines of tradition, avoiding the kind of public scrutiny that comes with creative pursuits. But Edward's attempt, however flawed, was a testament to his desire to be more than just a ceremonial figure. In his 20s, he gave the military life a shot, but it didn't take long for him to realize it wasn't for him. After a few months of grueling Royal Marines training, he decided to walk away. Word has it that Prince Philip, his dad, and a hardcore military man, was absolutely fuming. Imagine your super strict dad who's all about discipline and tradition finding out you quit. Yeah, not exactly a proud family moment. The press, of course, went into overdrive, calling him soft and saying he couldn't cut it. Harsh? Definitely. But maybe they missed the bigger picture. Edward knew early on that the military life just wasn't for him, and instead of sticking it out to please everyone else, he made the tough call to leave. It was a bold move, one that showed he'd rather follow his gut than fit into a mold. That decision, as controversial as it was, pretty much set the tone for his life. He plays by his own rules, even if it means disappointing a few people or facing some backlash. And honestly, that's kind of admirable. Fast forward to now, and he's kept a pretty low profile compared to the rest of the royal circus. He's done some good stuff, like supporting his dad's Duke of Edinburgh's award and helping out with charity work. He's been married to Sophie, Countess of Wessex, for ages, and they seem like a solid couple. No scandals, no drama, just doing their thing. But here's the question. Is that enough for him? Or is he ready to leave the royal grind behind for good? If Edward really is stepping back, maybe it's because he's tired of living in everyone else's shadow. Or maybe he's looking at Harry and Meghan and thinking, hey, they got out and seem fine. Why not me? Who knows? What we do know is he's always been about finding his own way, even if it's messy or doesn't make sense to anyone else. So if he's calling it quits, good for him. It's his life after all, and let's face it, royal life doesn't exactly look like a walk in the park. A quiet rebellion. Let's jump to the present, and surprise, surprise, Prince Edward is back in the headlines. So here's the scoop. Buckingham Palace, the big fancy symbol of royal life, isn't his main hangout anymore. Yeah, he's packed his bags. Why? Well, nobody really knows for sure, but the rumor mill is working overtime. Some people think it's his quiet way of saying, hey, I'm not thrilled with how things are under King Charles III. Others think he's just tired of the drama and wants to chill out in peace at Bagshot Park, the countryside estate he shares with Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. Now, Edward and Sophie, they're like the chill couple of the royal family. No scandals, no messy headlines, just steady vibes. While some royals seem to thrive on drama, looking at you, Harry and Meghan, Edward and Sophie keep things low-key. This move away from Buckingham Palace isn't some loud, dramatic exit with accusations flying everywhere. Nope, it's more of a quiet, we're just gonna do our own thing now moment. But make no mistake, even without the drama, it's still a big deal. Royal watchers are losing their minds trying to figure out what this means. Here's the thing though, this isn't the first time a royal has bailed on palace life. Remember Harry and Meghan? Their exit was like a full-blown soap opera. Edward's move? It's more like a carefully planned soft launch into a new chapter. He's not flipping tables or dropping bombshell interviews, he's just quietly stepping away, like a polite rebel. It's almost like he's saying, I'm gonna do this my way, thanks very much. And then there's Bagshot Park. If Buckingham Palace is all about glitter, gold, and non-stop cameras, Bagshot Park is the total opposite. Tucked away in the peaceful countryside, it's where him and Sophie have built their little slice of normal. Well, as normal as it gets when you're a royal. It's not just a house, it's their sanctuary. They've put their focus on raising their kids and doing royal duties on their own terms. No fancy palace staff or endless royal events, just a quieter, simpler life. The move says a lot about who Edward and Sophie are. They're not about flashy headlines or breaking royal rules in the most dramatic way possible. They're about steady change, about finding a balance between duty and personal happiness. Sure, they're still royals, but maybe they're showing the world there's a different way to do it, a way that doesn't involve living under the palace's spotlight 24/7. King Charles is on a mission, a big one, to slim down the monarchy. Think fewer royals, less spending, and a more modern, no-frills version of what it means to wear a crown. Could Edward's move be part of this master plan? Yeah, it's possible. Charles has been pretty clear about his vision for the monarchy. Fewer working royals and fewer people living off the royal dime. For someone like him, who's always liked doing his own thing, this might not even be a bad deal. It's like saying, hey, go focus on your family and hobbies without Buckingham Palace breathing down your neck. But not everyone is clapping for Charles's big changes. The whole modern monarchy thing has got people talking. Critics are out here saying, if you shrink the royal family too much, doesn't it lose some of its magic? Like, what's the point of a monarchy that isn't a little over the top? But then you've got the other side saying, actually, cutting back is smart. Who wants to fund a huge royal family in 2024? His low-key exit adds more fuel to this debate. It's like he's quietly walking the line between keeping old traditions alive and moving forward. Here's the thing, he isn't ditching his royal duties completely. Nope, he's just redefining what those duties look like. And honestly, that feels very on brand for the younger generation of royals. They're all about connecting with people in real ways, not just standing on balconies and waving. Edward's move says, you can still be royal without living in the palace spotlight. It's like the monarchy is getting a little more relatable, a little less untouchable castle vibes. And stepping away from the palace? That's not just a house swap decision, it's loaded with meaning. Buckingham Palace has been the center of the British monarchy for ages. Leaving it behind isn't just about moving furniture, it's about royals rethinking what their role actually means today. For him, this isn't about turning his back on tradition, it's more like honoring his late parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, by keeping their values alive in his own quiet way. They'd probably respect his determination to do things his own way. And let's not forget, this move is also about family. He's got 2 kids, Lady Louise Windsor and James, Viscount Severn. They're teenagers now, which means Edward's probably all about giving them as normal a life as possible. Well, as normal as it gets when you're a royal. Moving away from the palace spotlight gives them a better chance to grow up grounded and less caught up in all the royal drama. It's like he's saying being a good dad comes first. And honestly, that's a move more people should applaud. Edward's decision isn't just about making his life easier, though. It's also a reminder that even the most stuck-in-their-ways institutions can change. The monarchy is facing all kinds of challenges, from public skepticism to questions about its place in the modern world. Edward stepping back shows that even royals get it. You've got to adapt to stay relevant. And if that means swapping palace life for countryside calm, so be it. At the end of the day, it's about finding a way to balance tradition with today's reality. And that's a lesson a lot of institutions could learn from. A tale of 2 princes. Edward's departure is happening at a pretty messy time for the royal family. Let's be honest, their reputation is taking hit after hit. Scandals involving Prince Andrew? Yikes. The ongoing fallout from Harry and Meghan's dramatic exit? Double yikes. It's like the House of Windsor is stuck in a never-ending PR nightmare, scrambling to hold it all together. But here's where his story stands out. Unlike his brothers, he has mostly managed to steer clear of the tabloid mess. Notice the mostly. He's had his moments, but nothing headline-shattering. Back in the day, Edward tried to juggle royal duties and a private career, and it didn't exactly go smoothly. Remember his TV production company, Ardent Productions? Yeah, people weren't too impressed. Critics were quick to accuse him of using his royal connections to boost his business, and the backlash was brutal. But despite the bumps in the road, Edward managed to stay relatively drama-free compared to, say, Andrew, whose controversies have left a permanent stain on the family name. And that's the thing about him. He's not perfect, but he's reliable. While Andrew's scandals have dragged the monarchy through the mud, Edward's low-key vibe has actually helped hold it together. People see him as the dependable one, the guy who just gets on with it without stirring the pot. It's a reputation he's worked hard to build, and honestly, it's one the royal family desperately needs right now. The comparison between Edward and Andrew couldn't be more glaring. Andrew's headline-grabbing scandals have done serious damage, while his quiet, steady approach makes him look like the adult in the room. It's like he figured out how to play the royal game without losing himself in it, while Andrew, well, let's just say he's not winning any popularity contests. But his secret weapon? Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. Their relationship is one of the most solid things about the modern monarchy. No drama, no scandals, just a strong partnership that stood the test of time. Together, they've built a life that balances public service with private happiness. A tough act to pull off when you're living under a royal microscope. They're like the monarchy's ultimate power couple, showing that teamwork and mutual support can actually work, even in the high-pressure world of royal life. Edward's steady approach isn't flashy, but it's effective. He's not trying to reinvent the monarchy or make a grand statement. He's just quietly doing his part and staying out of trouble. And in a time when the royal family is desperately trying to prove it still matters, that kind of stability might just be what saves them. Edward isn't the loudest or the flashiest royal, but maybe that's exactly why he's one of the most important. So what's next for him? Well, it looks like he's got a lot on his plate, and honestly, he's handling it like a pro. First off, he's all in on charity work, especially with the Duke of Edinburgh's award. This isn't just some side project for him, it's a big deal. His dad, Prince Philip, spent decades building this program, and now he's stepping up to keep the legacy alive. It's like he's saying, "I've got this, Dad." And honestly, he's doing a pretty solid job of making it his own thing, not just a copy-paste of what Philip did. But it's not just about work, he's also putting family front and center. His marriage to Sophie is like the rock-solid foundation of his life, and their kids, Louise and James, have been kept mostly out of the royal circus. Moving away from Buckingham Palace, that's probably the best thing he could do for them. It gives the whole family some much-needed privacy and a chance to just, be normal. Well, as normal as a royal family can get. And let's not forget his approach to family life feels like a nod to how he was raised. His parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, taught him the value of service and community, and you can see those lessons in how he's raising his own kids. It's not about the fancy titles or the big ceremonies for Edward, it's about making a real difference. That's a pretty modern take on royal duty, and honestly, it's refreshing to see. But don't think he's just kicking back in the countryside. Nope, he's likely taking on even more royal responsibilities soon. King Charles is all about sharing the workload and making the monarchy more efficient, and Edward's reliability makes him the perfect guy for the job. He's not flashy, but he gets things done, and that's exactly what the family needs right now. Whether it's cutting ribbons, meeting people, or repping the royals at big events, Edward's got the experience to handle it all without breaking a sweat. This mix of tradition and forward thinking is exactly what the monarchy needs to stay relevant. Edward's finding that sweet spot between honoring the past and embracing the future, and it's working. He's showing that being royal isn't just about the fancy stuff, it's about real work and real connections. And if he keeps this up, Edward might just become one of the most important royals of his generation. As we wrap up, here's the question. Is Prince Edward's quiet rebellion a step toward modernizing the monarchy? Or is it a sign that the royal family is unraveling? Let us know your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.